Every meaningful change begins in a phase where nothing looks different from the outside. You are doing the work, but there is no visible reward yet. Your body doesn't change immediately. Your habits don't feel natural. Your skills don't show clear improvement. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But internally, a lot is happening. Your nervous system is adjusting. Your mind is learning repetition. Your standards are slowly being rewritten. This is the invisible phase. And it is the phase most people don't understand. They expect progress to be loud. They expect change to be obvious. They expect effort and results to appear at the same time. But discipline doesn't work like that. Effort always comes first. Results always come later. There is a delay built into the process. This delay feels uncomfortable because it gives you no reassurance, no applause, no confirmation, no clear sign that says you're on the right path. So the mind starts creating pressure. It wants proof. It wants feedback. It wants something visible to hold on to. And when it doesn't get that, it starts to doubt the process. But the invisible phase is not a mistake. It is not wasted time. It is not a sign of failure. It is the foundation. This is where habits are wired. This is where tolerance is built. This is where identity begins to shift quietly. Most people never stay long enough to let this phase finish its work. They leave when the pressure feels highest, not realizing that pressure is often a sign of growth. They quit while the structure is forming. They stop while adaptation is still underway. And later, they wonder why nothing ever seems to work for them. Not because they didn't try, but because they didn't stay. P2. Why quitting feels logical. Bon duan tuan. Quang bon tram. Bon moi tu. Quitting almost never feels like giving up. Most of the time, it feels like being smart. It feels like protecting your time. It feels like managing your energy. It feels like choosing efficiency over stubbornness. You tell yourself that you've tried enough. You tell yourself that you gave it a fair chance. You tell yourself that stopping now is simply being realistic. And in that moment, quitting feels logical. The human mind is very good at justifying comfort. It prefers certainty over patience. It prefers immediate relief over delayed reward. It prefers clear answers now instead of unclear results later. Staying inside a process without visible progress creates tension. There is tension from uncertainty. Tension from unanswered questions. Tension from not knowing whether this effort will ever pay off. Quitting removes that tension instantly. The moment you decide to stop, your body relaxes. Your mind feels lighter. The pressure disappears. And that relief feels like clarity. But relief is not truth. And comfort is not evidence. Quitting does not mean the process failed. It only means you left before the feedback arrived. Discipline always creates a delay between effort and outcome. Inside that delay, your emotions become unreliable. Doubt feels intelligent. Impatience feels responsible. Short-term thinking feels mature. This is why so many people stop right before things begin to change. They don't stop because they are weak. They don't stop because they lack discipline. They stop because the mind convinces them that continuing is inefficient. But discipline was never efficient in the short term. It was effective in the long term. Efficiency seeks quick confirmation. Discipline accepts slow transformation. Most people choose efficiency and call it logic. Very few people choose discipline and accept the discomfort. Those people stay when quitting feels reasonable. They stay when stopping would feel easier. And that single decision to stay a little longer is often the difference between nothing changing and everything starting to work. There is a moment that separates people who quit from people who change. It doesn't look dramatic, it doesn't feel exciting, and no one announces it. It is quiet. This moment usually arrives after the routine has become familiar, but before the results feel real. You already know what to do. You already know when to do it. But nothing extraordinary seems to happen. And that is exactly why it feels dangerous. At this stage, the work feels repetitive. The effort feels ordinary. The days start to blend together. You're no longer fighting resistance, but you are not enjoying momentum yet either. You are standing in between. This is the quiet threshold. On one side of it, everything still feels heavy. You think about quitting often. You question whether this is worth it. You wonder if you should change direction. On the other side of it, something subtle begins to shift. Not motivation, not excitement, simplicity. You stop debating with yourself. You stop asking emotional questions. You stop searching for reassurance. You simply do what needs to be done. Most people never cross this line, not because they are incapable, but because this phase feels unrewarding. They mistake boredom for stagnation. They mistake calm for lack of progress. They mistake silence for failure. So they turn back. They leave just as the process is about to stabilize, just as habits are locking in, just as identity is beginning to shift. Resistance at this stage is often misunderstood. People think resistance means they are on the wrong path. But resistance can also mean you are close. Close to adaptation. Close to consistency without effort. Close to discipline becoming automatic. The work hasn't failed. It has finally stopped feeling new. And that is usually the moment right before it starts to work. Most people misunderstand what discipline really is. They think discipline means intensity. They think it means pushing harder. They think it means doing more than everyone else. But real discipline looks very different. Real discipline is not about force. It is about staying. It is staying when the routine feels dull. It is staying when nothing feels urgent. It is staying when there is no emotional reward. Discipline is not built in moments of excitement. It is built in moments of repetition. When the work feels ordinary. When the schedule feels predictable. When the effort feels almost boring. This is where discipline quietly takes over. You stop relying on motivation. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop negotiating with yourself. You don't ask, "Do I feel like doing this today?" You ask, "What needs to be done today?" And then you do it. Not perfectly, not passionately, but consistently. This is why discipline is quiet. There is no dramatic struggle. There is no emotional debate. There is no need for constant encouragement. Just small actions done at roughly the same time, in roughly the same way, over and over again. Most people never reach this stage because they quit while everything still feels emotional. They quit while effort still requires persuasion. They quit while discomfort still feels personal. But once discipline settles in, effort becomes neutral. You don't feel strong. You don't feel weak. You just feel stable. And stability is powerful, because stability allows progress to compound quietly. It allows habits to run without friction. It allows results to grow without attention. Discipline does not demand perfection. It only demands continuity. You don't need to push harder. You don't need to optimize everything. You don't need to do more. You just need to not quit while the structure is forming. And that alone puts you ahead of most people who rely on motivation and leave as soon as it disappears. If you are feeling frustrated right now, pay attention. If you are thinking about stopping, slow down for a moment. Because that feeling, the boredom, the repetition, the quiet doubt, is not a sign that something is wrong. It is often a sign that the process is finally settling in. Most people expect progress to feel exciting. They expect momentum. They expect confidence. They expect visible movement that reassures them. But real progress feels very different. It feels calm. It feels repetitive. It feels almost uneventful. And that calm is uncomfortable for people who are used to emotional signals. When excitement disappears, most people assume the progress disappeared too. But that is usually when discipline is just beginning to take control. This is the moment where motivation steps aside and structure takes over. You stop chasing feelings. You stop waiting to feel inspired. You stop asking whether this will work. You simply continue. This is where most people quit. Not because they failed, not because they were incapable, but because nothing dramatic is happening anymore. They mistake calm for stagnation. They mistake repetition for lack of growth. They mistake silence for failure. But silence is where habits lock in. Silence is where identity stabilizes. Silence is where momentum quietly begins. You do not need a breakthrough. You do not need a sudden burst of confidence. You need to stay. Stay one more day. Stay one more repetition. Stay when quitting feels reasonable. Because most people quit right before it works. And the people who don't rarely feel special in the moment. They don't feel powerful. They don't feel ahead of others. They just stay. Quietly, consistently, without negotiating with themselves. And much later, often without realizing when it happened, they look back and notice something changed. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but permanently. Most people don't quit because they are incapable. They quit because they believe they are wasting time. They wake up one morning and start asking themselves questions. Quiet questions. Questions that sound reasonable. They look around. They compare their situation with others. They notice how slow their own progress feels. And when they don't see anything obvious changing, they assume something must be wrong. So they stop. Not loudly. Not emotionally. Not with a clear decision. They simply slow down. They skip one day, then another. And eventually, they disappear. What makes this moment dangerous is that quitting often feels logical. You've been showing up. You've been putting in effort. You've been repeating the same actions day after day, week after week. But the results haven't appeared yet. There is no visible progress. No clear confirmation. No signal that tells you this is working. So the mind begins to fill the silence. It starts offering explanations. Maybe this method isn't effective. Maybe I'm not suited for this. Maybe I should stop before I waste more time. Most people accept these thoughts immediately. They don't pause to examine them. They don't ask where these thoughts are coming from. They treat doubt as evidence. They treat discomfort as a warning sign. But what they fail to understand is that this exact phase is where discipline usually does its real work. Discipline doesn't work where everyone can see it. It works beneath the surface. It builds structure before results appear. It builds tolerance before confidence develops. It reshapes identity long before outcomes change. This process is slow. It is quiet. And it offers almost no reassurance. That's why it confuses most people. They confuse silence with failure. They confuse delay with stagnation. They confuse boredom with inefficiency. But discipline was never designed to feel exciting in the beginning. It was designed to feel repetitive, uneventful, almost invisible. Because what looks uneventful is often preparation. And that's why most people quit, not at the beginning, not when things are clearly difficult, but right before it starts to work.